What is good, family? Welcome back to Money in the Bank and our first recap of the season and our first preview of the next week. Man, Carolina unfortunately lost to the Cleveland Browns 26-24 in heartbreaking fashion, but they do have a chance to redeem themselves in a Week 2 matchup in the Meadowlands against the New York Football Giants. And in today's video, we got to break it down. You're listening to Money in the Bank. So look, in normal Money in the Bank fashion, we'll start off with what happened last. Carolina, unfortunately, lost the game to the Cleveland Browns. But what were some of the key things that we took away from that game? One of the biggest takeaways I took was that our run defense is absolutely putrid. And I don't see any way this gets better because of the guys that we signed. I mean, Damian Wilson, Corey Littleton. I wasn't as high on these guys as my co-hosts were, specifically Jack. I wasn't high on these guys. I figured these are guys that are past what they once were. If they were what they were in 2018, then absolutely for sure. But right now we look slow. We look absolutely slow as far in terms of foot speed, bro. I didn't see any type of explosiveness out of Shaq Thompson, who's coming off an injury, and he didn't look nearly as close to the same player we saw Week 1 of last year. That version of Shaq Thompson compared to this one is night and day. It looks very much like the version that we saw in years prior, where we kind of just feel disappointed because we don't see the explosiveness and the athleticism that we thought we were getting when we drafted him back in 2015. Carolina ultimately, bro, that defense is gonna live and die by their ability to stop the run. Your Tour Gross Matos, guys like Derrick Brown, of course, Marquise Haynes, can they apply pressure to the quarterback for one? Because now also. It was one thing to give up what you gave up on the run, but you couldn't apply pressure either. Brian Burns got there late in the game, and unfortunately, the one pressure that he was able to get off of a bull rush ended up being a roughing the passer call that kept their drive alive to eventually help them win that game. But ultimately, Derrick Brown, right? Derrick Brown, Bravion Roy. These two big monstrosities in the interior of our defense get zero push. I mean, at this point now, the rumblings, things that already been rumbling about Derrick Brown anyway. Going back to 2020, people haven't seen what we thought we were supposed to see in Derrick Brown coming out of college. This big, athletic freak that can destroy game plans. Haven't seen that in the NFL. Don't know what it is, but I haven't seen it. Bravion Roy, another guy that's just a guy to me. I haven't seen anything from him that makes me say wow. But ultimately, I just don't see where this defense improves in the ground game. Now in the secondary, J.C. Horn, Dante Jackson, C.J. Henderson, they didn't look as bad. But Donovan Peoples-Jones ultimately sunned them on multiple occasions in that game to help them get take over and eventually win it. Just didn't see enough of what I thought was going to be a lockdown secondary. C.J. Henderson, I will say, besides the pass interference that ended up leading to the walk-in touchdown by C.J. Henderson, ultimately he did play a solid game. J.C. Horn, a little handsy. A guy that's only playing his fourth game of his career, so I'm not necessarily worried about him. Dante Jackson just hasn't. I will say, he didn't help me out because I was the guy vouching for him in the offseason, saying that he's a solid corner. He can do this, he can do that. He's able to get the ball for us, something we haven't had in Carolina in quite some time. But ultimately, he didn't do any of that. A lot of passes were saved. Nothing necessarily none of the passes that Jacoby Brissett threw in that game were put in harm's way. So just when it was time to make plays, Donovan Peoples-Jones on pretty much across the middle was money time. And most of these catches were contested catches. It's not like he caught anything and just ran free. It's just the fact that you were never able to make a play. And the plays that Cleveland were able to make were plays that you make when you have a game manager at quarterback and you're not passing the ball 30 times in this game. We have a handful of passes we're going to throw. You need to be able to execute, and we're going to have to come up and make catches, and that's exactly what they did. But ultimately, defensively, that defense looked absolutely awful, and I hope that group takes it personal and improves this week coming up against the New York Giants. Now, getting into the offense. Ben McAdoo. That may have been the biggest form of malpractice I've seen from any offensive coordinator to open up the season. And usually, it was noticeably bad. You came out with 3 passes to start the game off against Cleveland. And, a Cleveland team that possesses who on the other side of the ball? Myles Garrett, right? Okay, Myles Garrett against who, might you ask? Ike Ekwonu, who is our rookie left tackle that we drafted 6th overall, in his first game as a starter is going up against Myles Garrett. We had been touting this matchup for weeks leading up into it. We literally knew what the game plan would be for Cleveland. Gun after our young rookie left tackle, and that's exactly what they did. And with the tight ends that we have, Ian Thomas, who can't block a. Hey boy. Ian Thomas couldn't block pillows, man. I ain't gonna lie. Ian Thomas can't block stuffed teddy bears. I ain't gonna hold you. Now, Tommy Tremble would have been the guy I thought you would have wanted to use more in that situation. As far as chip blocking and things of that nature, he's a big physical tight end, explosive. He would have been the guy he would have been the designated guy I had on that left side of the line alongside Ike Ekwonu. Ike looked about how I thought he would look in this first game. I'm not disappointed. I'm not necessarily overjoyed by how he looked, but he went up against an elite pass rusher and got dead. That's kind of what I expected. I'm not gonna hold you. Now, again, why did you not run the football? Hey, Christian McCaffrey had 10 carries. I think Deontay Foreman had 4, and Chuba Hubbard had 1 carry. Ultimately, McCaffrey only had 14 touches by the end of the game with 4 receptions. That's not enough. That's not enough. And I talked about it on the podcast, and I'll say it again here. Foreman and Hubbard have to be integral parts of this offense if we ever want to take that next step. And here's the thing about Baker Mayfield, right? Baker Mayfield was at his best when they could run the football in Cleveland. They had Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. You're going to have to balance that thing out in the same way. That's what I thought the thought process was in going to get Foreman, adding him onto a backfield with McCaffrey and Hubbard, was to establish the ground game, running back by committee, alleviate the pressure from Baker Mayfield to have to throw the ball 30 times a game. Now, Baker Mayfield ended up getting it together later on, but that ain't going to work. That's not going to cut it, man. Now, let's get into the passing game with the passing game. You couldn't get a rhythm early, but we kind of already discussed it. Now, let's get into what we think is going to happen against the New York Giants. After watching tape of their game against the Tennessee Titans, one thing I noticed is that their offensive line isn't holding up for 3 to 4 seconds to let things develop down the field, and I don't think they have the receiving core to really do that. I will say, there's a receiver number 80. I can't remember his name right now, but he was a guy that Daniel Jones looked to a lot, quick in the slot. Kadarius Toney is another guy that I think is going to be perfect for what they're going to try to do this week, which is going to be a lot of quick game. They're not going to be trying to let things develop down the field. They're going to send routes down the field to free up everything underneath. Their focus is going to be swing passes out to Barkley and Breida and getting to number 80 and Kadarius Toney number 89. That's going to be their game plan offensively. And I will say, Saquon Barkley and Breida look good. They look great in that running game for the New York Giants. They're able and a lot of what we see out of Cleveland, I expect to see out of New York. Brian Daboll, I will say, is an offensive play caller. First of all, the guy that I want as our head coach, and he's one of the more elite offensive guys in this game. I look at what he did with Josh Allen. I will say this: if any coach can save Daniel Jones and make him look like a competent quarterback, it's Brian Daboll. That may take a year or two, and they may not feel they have enough time to wait on him. But Brian Daboll can be the guy to get it done for Daniel Jones. I expect them to come out with a masterful game plan. Obviously, try to establish the ground game with the guys elite as Saquon Barkley and Breida. They're gonna try to apply the same type of physical prowess that the Cleveland Browns apply. And I'll say this for Carolina: play Brandon Smith. There's no need to wait. I've seen enough out of Damian Wilson and Littleton. That is enough. Play Brandon Smith. Get more athleticism, more speed, and more power out there on the field, and let the young man learn how to play on the fly. That's going to be your best bet at this point. Now, I will say in the secondary, your secondary should be able to play. They're going to be tasked with the similar thing. When it's time for Daniel Jones to throw the ball, can you make stops? And also, Daniel Jones is going to be involved in the run game with the RPO read option type of deal. Your defensive line ultimately is going to have to get home. They're going to have to get home. Derrick Brown and Bravion Roy will be the key to this one. And can Marquise Haynes and Brian Burns get the quarterback on the ground? Your defensive line ultimately is going to be held responsible for how this game shakes out. That's it in a nutshell. Now, offensively for the Carolina Panthers. The key here, balance is going to be key, of course. But this is the week where if you want to establish Baker Mayfield in that passing attack, this would be the week to do it. Ryan Tannehill had no issues with Robert Woods, Traylon Burks, Phillips, and all their receivers who I think we know or can say for a fact that we have the better receiver core over the Tennessee Titans. This will be the week to get DJ Moore rolling. You waited late last week to get it done. I don't think you should have that issue this week. You should be able to get DJ Moore rolling pretty quickly. Balance will be the key, though. Don't lean to it. That's going to be the key all season. But I will say in this game, if Baker Mayfield can't give me 250 to 300 yards passing and a couple tutties, I'm gonna be concerned moving forward, because this is a secondary that I know for a fact can be had, because there's not a solidified number one corner over there that should be able to play with Robbie or DJ Moore. This will be the game here. If you want to throw in Higgins and you want to getting Shy more involved will be it's something you can do here. But Foreman, McCaffrey, and Hubbard need to have touches. We need to be running the ball 30 times a game. McCaffrey needs to be sitting at about 20 carries, at around 15 to 18 carries, 5 to 7 receptions, 20 plus touches. Foreman needs about 10. Hubbard needs about 7 to 8. You got to get somewhere in that sweet spot where that's going to have to happen. Now, if you're asking me who I think wins this game, the NFL's dicey, bro. The NFL is a dicey game, and I'm going to hope that our run defense is more sustainable this week, and our defense overall gives us a better performance. I think our offense does improve this week. Now, I will say if the offense looks anything less than what they did in that second half against Cleveland, we probably lose this football game, but I'm going to hold out a little bit of faith, right? But I will say the advantage goes to New York as far as coaching. As far as coaching, I give the advantage to New York, but I'm going to give us the edge in this one. I'll say Panthers 20-17. Panthers win it, go 1-1. Look forward to next week against the New Orleans Saints. That's been Money in the Bank for you guys this week. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. More will be. We will have more to come, and we will have some special updates for you on the Instagram page. So be sure to be on the lookout there. This is Shanti Stewart. This is Money in the Bank, and I'm out.